and Theories panel. I'm Joe Madge.
I'm Kamapuri.
I'm Madman.
I'm Cindaria.
This panel will delve into the clues from the show and more of the popular fan theories with maybe a few more obscure ones thrown in. Apologizing in advance if we don't cover your favorite clue or theory. Obviously, there were so many to choose from. We just had to kind of draw and choose and do our best here to kind of get a wide variety. So each panelist, as we go over them, are going to vote. And we're going to vote yes, red herring, maybe, or other. And then we can discuss our choices. And please feel free to vote along as we go in the chat. There we go. The first one is, of course, from the first episode of season 2. Crowley is reading a magazine that says, is Tadfield the best village in England? And now most of the time, a newspaper. Most of the time, it's this part of the newspaper that's facing us, so we can't see it. But for just a brief few frames, he turned the paper enough that you can actually see the Tadfield headline. And then if you zoom in really close, you even see it says, entirely perfect weather again for Tadfield.
I think that's a clue. I think that means that Adam still has some kind of powers and will probably be back in season 3.
Right. I agree with you 100%. I think that's a clue. Admin?
Yeah, I think again it's a clue. I think at the end of season 1, we kind of saw he still had a little something going on when he let Dog out to go run away. And I hope anyway that we get to see Adam again in 3rd season. So
it'll be interesting to see him older, won't it?
Mm-hmm.
So our next clue is I called it Aziraphale's Chekhov's gun. And it's the scene in the magic shop where Aziraphale says to Crowley that he has a derringer hidden in the bookshop inside a hollowed out book. So is that a clue?
I think this one's a red herring. There's a lot of gun references, and I think we do, there's the magic bullet trick and everything. The gun can't be used in the future. I know it still could be used in the past in 1941.
I think it might be a clue. We had the gun for the magic trick, like Sen said. We've got the gun in the book, so I could see there might be another gun coming back somewhere in season 3. I don't know if it's that specific gun, but maybe there's a completion to that trio of guns.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think it's sort of a red herring as well. It may come up again, like they may reference it like at some point when they're in there in the bookshop or something, but I agree with you guys.
Okay, I'm the odd man out. I think it's a definite clue. I think it's likely to come up in the 1941, probably a 3rd flashback involving the zombies. The next one, Heaven and Hell versus Humanity. This is from season 1, almost the very end of season 1, when Crowley and Aziraphale were talking about what would come next. And Crowley said, for my money, the really big one is all of us against all of them.
I think it's a clue. I feel like that would be a really great kind of setup. I feel like Aziraphale and Crowley have kind of almost become human-like themselves, and they're almost on their side. They always talk about being on their own side, but I think that they would side with humanity in that one again. And it would be interesting to see how that played out.
I agree. I think that it will definitely be Heaven and Hell versus Humanity, but I think it's really up in the air which side, if either, Aziraphale and Crowley will end up on.
I definitely think it's a clue. I don't really think Heaven and Hell have ever actually been on humanity's side, so I think that has already been essential to the plot. So I think that will probably just come to a head in season 3.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with what Kama and what all of you just said, but it's I do think it's just a continuation of the story. This is the side that they've always been more on humanity's side. Well, not always, but the last few thousand years. And it's just kind of a continuation of that story. Yeah, so clue, yes.
A few grave diggers and a Bastille guard notwithstanding, yes.
Yeah, a few individuals.
Okay, so the next clue kind of ties in nicely with that. It's humans worse than demons, which is something that was covered in both seasons 1 and 2. Yes, I definitely think that's a clue. I think that's probably a big clue. I think we're going to see some of the possibly darker side of humanity in season 3, more than just, oh, look, the government pushed some buttons and some bad stuff happened.
I don't know if I think this is a clue or more of just an observation. I mean, it certainly is an observation of what humanity is capable of. On some level, it's also an observation of the sort of creativity that humanity is capable of, which might come into play in season 3.
Same, I kind of made a note on this one. I think it's
Uh-huh.
like an insight or a theme that humans don't need angels and demons to be either good or evil. They're naturally already inherently capable of both, which is demonstrated at the end of season 1. Even, when Aziraphale says to Adam that he was afraid he was going to be evil, he wanted him to be good, but what he found out he actually was, human. And that humanity is actually what allowed Adam to make the decision that ended the threat at the end of season 1. So yeah, I just think it's an insight that we're all capable of both.
So I agree that it's sort of a clue, sort of an insight, like you guys have been saying, which it says that humans are worse than demons, but I would say that humans are also capable of being better than angels.
Okay, the next clue is resurrection, which of course was a theme that popped up a lot in season 2, especially episode 3.
I feel like it's maybe a clue reference to, if it is about Jesus and the second coming, there's a whole resurrection aspect of that. But much more than that, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's a clue. Again, we don't know. We can presume we're going to see Jesus in season 3, and Jesus is the ultimate resurrectionist. So how that will play out, no idea. But yeah, I do think it's a clue to something.
Yeah, I definitely think there's a clue there somewhere. There was also the 25 Lazari miracle, how many people you can bring back from the dead.
Ooh, good
So
point.
I think there's something there. Don't know how it will play out.
Okay, the next one is kind of one of the more obscure ones. The colors of the scroll when Crowley and Aziraphale helped create a nebula together were the shade of pink that just happened to be very similar to the shade of pink that came from the Lazari miracle. And some people said, well, it's the color of Gabriel's eyes when they turn purple, but as you can see, his purple eyes are darker. So is that a clue of something? And I'm leaning towards definitely maybe. I'm not convinced, but I'm intrigued. It would be interesting if the source of their joint power just sort of was birthed from them accidentally creating something together that maybe they weren't meant to.
Yeah, I'm going to go with that. Definitely a maybe as well. I think color is definitely important regarding it. And so it's hard to know if the whole purple pink sort of spectrum they have going on is intentional or not. I mean, everything seems intentional in the show, so who knows? But
Yeah, I think, we're all gonna go with definitely maybe. I think it's kind of a confirmation that when they work together, they create something unique, different.
I mean, it seems to me like clearly an intentionally consistent visual theme, but I don't know if I would necessarily call it a clue.
Excellent. Okay. Next up is Jim Reel's Prophecies.
I mean, that definitely seems like a clue to me, and it would go in line with season 3 is not going to be gentle or romantic. A little scared to think about what it's going to be.
For sure. Sandaria?
Yeah, I think it's a clue verging on foreshadowing, essentially. I mean, it's basically stated that this is what's coming.
Agree with both of you entirely. Good point about the not gentle or romantic line.
yeah, I definitely think it's a clue, just like you guys were saying. Again, foreshadowing almost.
Okay, the next clue is the name of the coffee shop. Simple as that. Give me coffee or give me death.
Kinda. I would call it maybe. I think again, it's like a clue slash theme of them seeking their own liberty. So yes, I think it will carry over the theme of give me liberty or give me death into season 3. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really have anything to add to that. I would agree that thematically it seems like a clue.
I'm also going to sort of agree overall. I feel like it's sort of a theme almost, and not necessarily a clue, like you guys are saying.
Mhm. I also agree, and I think it's particularly interesting now that Aziraphale has gone to heaven to either make it better or make it much worse. We don't know what that smile meant. Gravity lesson that Crowley gave to Jim Briel when they were alone in the bookshop. Is that a clue? I'm leaning more towards red herring. It's one of those things that stood out for a lot of people, and they're like, this must mean something, this must mean something. But I've never really been able to beam in on what that could mean. But maybe I'll have better imaginations than me. So Madman, you tell me.
I think again, like you said, it's sort of a red herring. I don't know that it's necessarily a clue for something, although it would be fun to see sort of a flashback of that type of scene or something. I think it sort of just reads into his character, contributes to his authority as somebody who helped contribute to the creation of the universe, and like now he's just carrying around Aziraphale's books and babysitting him. So
Yeah.
I think it's sort of it's in
Kama?
Yeah, I think it seems like a red herring. It just seemed like a comedy scene between Crowley and Jim to me.
And Sen?
Okay, I guess I'm the one going out on a limb here and
All
gonna say
right.
it's just to be different. No, I do think it's a little bit of a clue because of its relationship to the Powell and Pressburger film, having to do with natural laws and love, which yeah, that's my idea of like love
Ah.
overcoming natural laws, which is one of the themes in Stairway to Heaven.
Oh, that's lovely.
Mhm.
Okay, the next clue. It's too late. It's always too late.
This one feels to me like a clue. Maybe even a clue of something that could get inverted in some way, like some way in which it wouldn't be too late.
Interesting. I'm leaning towards that too. It definitely feels like a clue, and maybe it'll be one of those darkest before the dawn sort of scenarios.
I'm kind of on the fence about it because
Mhm.
I mean, it wasn't too late in season 1. Things have always kind of come back around and been all right. So I feel like, again, it's sort of feeds into or reads into his sort of character of sort of fatalist, sort of, I tried my best and I failed, and that's just where we are kind of thing.
I agree with Madman. I really think it's like a character trait. It's highlighting something about Crowley and how he's thinking. And I like what Cam said though about maybe being an inversion of that in season 3. That's an interesting idea too.
Okay, the next one, and I have to credit a fan on the Sandaria's Discord server named Very Blueberry who spotted this one. Armageddon 2.0, when they were doing Gabriel's trial, there was a little graphic of a bomb-like thing right on the southern edge of Scotland. Was that a clue, a red herring, or just a random happenstance?
I feel put on the spot for this one because I wrote down red herring, but then when you just showed it to me again, I thought maybe it is a clue, but not to the bombs going off in the second coming, because I don't think we're going to see, a repeat of nuclear Armageddon in season 3. So that's why I wrote red herring. But then I'm thinking maybe it has to do with the big epic miracle. Maybe it's a clue to that as opposed to a clue to Armageddon.
Well, I don't know what to say now because what Sen said was so intriguing. I'm now just like, ooh. So I'm gonna probably just lean more towards that. It's something possibly going to happen first in Scotland, but like you said, it might not be what Heaven thinks is going to happen in Scotland. Okay, the next clue is kind of a compound clue, so you can just pick what you want from it. But basically, the magic shop is just stuff full of stuff. I definitely think the money shot means something, even if it was just foreshadowing the end of season 2. But I have a feeling that may have implications in season 3 too, just because we know that Aziraphale is going on a journey and that he's likely going to come out of it changed in some way.
definitely a lot of clues in that magic shop, but oh my gosh, you could go crazy trying to look for them all.
It seems like magic is sort of an important theme that runs through the whole thing. And the whole sleight of hand thing, you know, the Aziraphale pulls off. So maybe it's not so much about betrayal and things like that, but maybe that Aziraphale has more up his sleeve, haha, than we think. And he's going to be trying to pull some wool over some folks' eyes. I think Aziraphale has a lot more going on than is at the surface.
I like what Madman said about the theme of magic and Aziraphale having another trick up his sleeve and another trick up his sleeve. The magic shop is awesome. I hope they leave this set up. I hope that magic shop is still there after season 3 and they let some people tour it, because I would love to see all the little details in there. And I think also the tarot card thing, because they released an official tarot card deck.
They did.
And that God was playing with tarot cards in the beginning of season 1, that there's probably something to it, but exactly what it means, I don't know.
The next clue is another compound clue, and it's all the books. So if y'all just want to point out one or two that stand out for you that might have meaning for season 3.
Okay, I think this is majority of these are Easter eggs. And maybe the Crow Road is the only one that stands out to me because it's referenced 3 separate times. And he does give it to Muriel. Crowley does give it to Muriel. But having read it now, I don't know what.
I do think that Jane Austen, having been referenced so many times, there will be definitely. I am already seeing. We've talked about before that there's a Jane Austen-ish curve happening with Crowley and Aziraphale's story. The final 15 has been compared to the disastrous first proposal scene in Pride and Prejudice, where Darcy just made a jerk of himself. But generally, I agree with you. I think it was more like, look at all these cool books, read more. Madman, what do you think?
Well, I definitely think that it works, because I definitely bought several books that I wouldn't have otherwise. Some books not even related to the show, and I actually started reading again, which I haven't done in a while. So whether it's a clue or not, it worked and got me reading. So
awesome. So then the next one is another big grouping of clues, music. All the, I'm not talking about, of course, of David Arnold's amazing score, but all the music that contained information in a tuneful way. Yes, I think the Shostakovich one in particular, they did a close-up on that record. They really wanted us to notice it. And I think that could definitely be a foreshadowing of Aziraphale's experience in heaven.
Yeah, there's a variety of stuff going on. I do think that line, the information contained in a tuneful way, does tell us that some of the things are clues. I think clearly the Shostakovich one is a good example. Every Day is also a good example. It's telling us exactly what's going to happen. There are other things in there, I think, there are Easter eggs to the book. The whole running joke about Queen.
Yeah, I think that they kind of use music as a way to sort of a tool to kind of flesh the story out for people who are more interested, like, you know, your average viewer who's not really big into the fandom or whatever might just get the music fits really well. But for those of us who are kind of more into it, it kind of gives us a little bit more to hold on to, more to learn about what's going on and things like that. So clue or not, I think it sort of fleshes out the story more.
I personally think that the Nightingale song playing in the Bentley at the end is also a clue to eventual happy ending.
Agree. All right. The next one, another big one. Sundari, you mentioned this earlier, Powell and Pressburger.
So I have to admit to not having seen any Powell and Pressburger films yet. So I feel underinformed for answering this one.
It's okay.
I think there's likely some clues in there.
Sam?
And much like what Madman said earlier about the success with the books, I think success here, not just myself, I know a number of fans have now been watching these old Powell and Pressburger films. Especially, I would say, Stairway to Heaven, Matter of Life and Death is actually a good film. It's like, I can see why he, and Douglas McKinnon also, I think they said it was his favorite. And I believe Michael Sheen also says it's one of his favorites. There's so many references. There's other Powell and Pressburger references even beyond that are like more, they're smaller. There's actors and actresses names hidden in the record shop that I found. I think I told you I found the actress in A Canterbury Tale. I can't remember, Sheila Sim. Her name's up on the wall. So there's a whole bunch of references. So a lot of it I think is Easter eggs. It's like he wanted to reference every Colin Pressburger film he could somewhere. And I do think the Stairway to Heaven is a little bit of a clue, because again, I think there's a theme going on in the Stairway to Heaven that we're going to really see explored more in season 3.
Well, you made it easy for me. That was pretty much what I was going to say. I do think Stairway to Heaven was definitely the top one that they wanted us to notice the most. But if anybody watching this hasn't seen that movie, you should probably see that movie. It's out there.
It's got David Niven in it. Just go watch it.
Go watch it. Okay, we're going to start the theories section now. We're going to do it pretty similar to how we just did the clues section. Okay, so the first theory is a very popular theory. Maggie is not human. There's something with Maggie.
I think that Maggie is a human. I do think she is a special human being used in some fashion, likely by Heaven, but possibly by both sides, as some sort of catalyst that is used to enact some kind of change. My idea originally was like that God is using her to sort of correct the plan, but that might be too specific. I just think she's touched or used in some way by the powers that be.
I lean towards that too. I was especially convinced again by a video you did on this subject. You pointed out all the smiley faces that appear around her a lot, which look just like the smiley faces that were in God's opening monologue in season 1. Yeah, I like the word catalyst. She definitely has, I think about how Aziraphale has kind of an angelic influence without trying to on people around him. He kind of changes the mood, changes the tone. And I almost feel like Maggie has something like that too.
Well, so I've seen a lot of theories that Maggie is a demon because of the spelling error, and I don't buy that she's a demon.
Our next one. Yes. A popular theory that the reason the Metatron offered the Archangel, the Supreme Archangel position to Aziraphale, was that he was just so desperate to get him and Crowley apart, specifically because of the Lazari miracle. And he realized how incredibly dangerously powerful they could be together.
I mean, this theory is what got my YouTube channel started. So yes, this is my first theory. Not that I own it. Other people came up with it too. It's right there in the storyline. But yeah, 100% I buy this. They're important. The Lazari miracle is important. It will be important in season 3, I think. And it is why the main reason the Metatron did what he did at the end of season 2.
Yeah, I definitely think that he's at least threatened by the situation. And like Sandaria said, it's sort of kind of what brought me into this too, is sort of the start of all that. So
I would definitely agree that I agree with the theory. I think that's definitely why the Metatron separated them. I'm not sure if I think that God sent the Metatron to do that, or if that's the Metatron doing it on his own. So there's some question there, but definitely agree with that theory.
Yes, and very good point. As far as we can tell, God's not talking to anybody. So the idea that the Metatron actually has God's ear, or I should say, God has a Metatron's ear, is up for question. And I do think there might be a little bit more to it just because of the glare that that the Metatron gave Crowley specifically. But we'll get more into that with another theory. We're moving on to one that I still see coming up a lot. It's also a very popular fanfic idea that Crowley and Aziraphale will turn human at the end.
I can definitely see the argument either way. I think that in order to have a happy ending, and there have been a lot of clues towards a happy ending, there need to be some fundamental changes in Heaven and Hell's relationship to Crowley and Aziraphale and Earth. So one way I could see it going is if Heaven and Hell somehow ceased to exist and there just weren't angels and demons anymore, then Crowley and Aziraphale would be human. And that could be one way that could go.
Kama just kind of convinced me. It's funny how we have this discussion. So I've always felt like I don't want that to happen, but that I completely understand why, not only why people are attached to it, but why people think it will happen, because there's a lot of form shapes nature is one of the things that's said repeatedly in the book and in season 1. There's also, as any angel and demon interacts more with humanity, they do take on more human traits. So I understand where the theory comes from. I didn't think it was likely to happen, but yeah, Kama's idea there about how that could be one way where heaven and hell, the solution of the institutional problem could be solved. I don't know what they're going to do with 10 million demons and 10 million angels, if there really are that many, but yeah,
Good point.
it could happen totally. So I don't know. I don't know. Even my personal preference changes. Like I love the angel and their millennia long relationship, but nothing does last forever.
You guys definitely took it way deeper than I had. I mean, I can definitely see how people would be interested in that, and it feels a little bit Mary Sue to me. I don't mean to offend anybody with that, but it makes it easier to put yourself in that position if they are human, because we are human. It's, at least I am. I don't know about you guys, but
We'll check in.
I mean, it'd be interesting to see it go that way. I don't see this general story arc leading to that, but you know, like you guys said, we don't know, so we'll have to see.
We're not going to get into names because Crowley's angel name is a dead name, so we're not going to even guess at it. But a lot of discussion in fandom about his position in heaven. Was he an actual capital A archangel? What do you think about Crowley's rank in heaven?
Yes.
So decisive.
There's so many things that, yeah, I just think yes.
Awesome. Okay, Madman, what are your deeper thoughts?
Oh, that's expecting a lot of me right now. I don't know. It's a long day. I've read some different theories that I really like. Maybe Crowley isn't the best storyteller for her about his fall and stuff like that. So I do personally hope that there is more about his history, and I would not be surprised if he did have some like higher ranking situation.
Sure, I'll go with yes. I don't think that I have as much evidence for it as Sen probably does, but we don't know a lot about what thrones and dominions are
True.
in the Good Omens, but we know a lot about what an archangel is, and it seems like it's pretty clear that Crowley was powerful. So sure, we'll go with archangel.
I'm going to agree with that. Besides the fact that he actually has the power to stop time, which seems pretty above what most angels we've seen, at least certainly higher than what Aziraphale can do. Also the fact that he worked on the Horsehead Nebula with Aziraphale, who is another archangel, and I think Crowley and she were probably about the same level. I still see this one being bounced around a whole lot, and that's the Book of Life. What is it? Who's got it? Has it been stolen? Is it missing? Is it hidden in the bookshop? A very common theory.
The Book of Life will come up in season 3. I think it's hard to have an opinion because it was literally mentioned twice, and one person, Crowley, doesn't think, he's like, isn't it just a made-up story? The Metatron is very dismissive of Michael having the authority to use it, as Michael seems to think it exists. I don't know.
From what I understand of the biblical description of this book, it's Jesus who wields that power to make that final, it's basically Judgment Day is what the Book of Life is. It's, you know, who passes the grade, who doesn't. And so I can't see anybody else being able to get their hands on it and use it or steal it or edit it. That was another common idea.
All right, hot take in listening to you all talk. I now think the Book of Life was a rumor started by God, and it doesn't even exist.
Ooh, that is a hot take. All right, guys. The next one is that Aziraphale and Crowley will actually save the day.
That would be nice, and that seems like a very easy way to paint it. I feel like the emphasis of, you know, humanity versus heaven versus hell, like I feel like humanity is going to be the one that ends up saving it. You know, maybe it'll be Maggie and Nina, and they're leading some group of humans. I don't feel like it's going to be Aziraphale and Crowley. I feel like they're much more humans have to save themselves kind of.
I hadn't thought about that before, so I'm kind of having to rethink on the fly here, because that is a really good point. But generally, yes, I do think that, let's say maybe the penultimate event of the entire story will be their Lazari miracle saving something important, whether it's literally the entire story, the very end of the world, or what. We don't know, but it's definitely going to have a very, very impactful, important part of the story. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I think I agree with everything you all have said. I think that there will be a Lazari miracle. It will be a critical plot point, but I don't think it can be the entirety of saving the world, because I do think that humans have to play some part in that and have some agency themselves.
Any demon or angel pairing can produce a Lazari miracle. Generally, I'm leaning towards no, although I will say that I ship the Ineffable Underlings so badly. I really like the idea of Aziraphale and Crowley being a little bit more unique and special. Their pairing being more unique and special than anybody else's.
I'd have to agree with you. Is, you know, what's the point of having a hierarchy system, a ranking system in both sections if that doesn't also equate to the amount of power that they would have? So I'm not saying it's some sort of math system where you have to like carry the one or something, but
I don't think it's the fact that Crowley and Aziraphale are an angel and a demon that give their miracles their power. I think it's the love that they have for each other. So no, not just any angel and demon.
All of you are right. I agree. I think it is their love for each other. The reason they can do a miracle is because they're an angel and demon. But the point, I think, is that working together creates more power than working individually. So sort of yes, in so far as that any two people or group of people coming together, especially working from opposite sides, but for a common goal, creates a great deal of power. We see even like Newt and Anathema, for instance. So they were able to accomplish a lot more together than they are apart. Same with all of them, and they're not even like a romantic couple. It's still a kind of love, friendship love. So people working together in any kind of bonding way. Crowley and Aziraphale are a little more special, so kind of also no. That was maybe a little, but I want to have my cake and eat it too on this one, I guess.
Another popular theory, Crowley's memory has been tampered with. I'm going to say that is a big fat red herring. I think Crowley was just being ornery. I think he was just messing with them.
I'm not exactly sure what to think about this. I don't really think his memory was tampered with, but there might be there's something with his memory. It's kind of weird that he doesn't remember people so much.
I think that, like Gabriel, he's so aloof, he doesn't pay attention to people's names, which is not quite that he's messing with them. I think he legitimately is like, you're who again? I don't think his memory was tampered. I'm open to being proven wrong on this one.
I think a part of it is like Sen said, where it's a personality thing where he's, you know, and Kama too, where it's just sort of like he's digging at people. But I know that, you know, especially with Crowley not being the most reliable narrator of the fall, that maybe it's not necessarily that lots of things has been, you know, sort of pulled from him, but maybe during that process pieces got lost.
Next one. This is one I do see bantered around a lot on social media.
Boy, this one's tricky. I mean, it's in the name. Terry, I believe, came up with the name. He thought it was a funny pun that there was an unfallen angel named Mr. Fell. But just because it started that way doesn't mean that they wouldn't turn it into something a little deeper or, you know, more serious. So I think if he does, it won't be the same fall as what happened to the fall, where all the other angels fell. If he falls, it might be more of a symbolic thing that he's going through.
I kind of like the idea of, I mean, it seems like it might fit in there, like if you look at it sort of from a distance or whatever, but to me, I feel more like if he does fall, he's bringing everything with him.
I think I don't think he's going to fall. And to me, by fall, that would mean being cast out against his wishes. I think he might very well get to the point where he's ready to leave and do that on his own terms, which isn't really the same as falling, because that's his
Mhm.
choice.
Mm-hmm.
It's jumping at that point. So
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, this next one is from Laura. The theory is that Aziraphale, in particular, his story will more parallel Hamlet, in that he will fake madness in heaven.
So the tie to Hamlet is admittedly pretty tenuous. We just had that one scene in the first season. So one of the reasons in the play that Hamlet feigns madness is to figure out what's going on. His uncle has murdered his father, and he's trying to get his uncle to admit to that. In Good Omens, there has been this sort of dynamic of, it's not really clear which directives are coming from God versus which directives are coming from the Metatron or Gabriel. And so I could see him feigning madness, and that being what that crazy smile is about in the credits scene, in order to try
Ooh.
and figure out, like, who's actually ordering what's actually going on here. Are these orders coming from God? What's the Metatron's relationship? Don't know. But I could see there being something interesting with that.
Yeah, I have to say that you've got me thinking so hard now, because I just assumed he would be like, I am competent, I am in charge, I'm going to take over, and you all speak one at a time, when he marches into heaven. But it's starting to appeal to me, this idea that he might leave them a little more off balance with his behavior. I don't mean just totally acting like he doesn't know what he's doing, but being unpredictable, put it that way.
I like to think that he will sort of come into his own. I mean, you have this sort of theme. You could argue that there's this theme sort of where Crowley has been helping Aziraphale sort of come to understand the way things really are, from a companion to owls up to all these different moments, right? And he has that proud moment when Aziraphale tells everybody to please be quiet, he rings the bell, and how proud Crowley was. So I think that sort of a nice continuation of that arc would be him coming into his own, sort of going up there, seeing what's going on, and then taking over. I don't know that he'll walk in there and storm in, guns blazing, metaphorically, but I don't know, the Derringer from this bookshop. I don't know.
And this theory that we're finishing with is that we touched on a little bit earlier, which is that Metatron has a personal beef with Crowley, as evidenced by that very dark glare that he gave Crowley as he and Aziraphale were heading out to have a chinwag.
I hadn't really heard this before. We went over this. I could see it though, because that glare is pretty, intense. I say maybe. We may get some more backstory on it. It may just be that Metatron is really trying to assert dominance, so to speak, and try to convince Crowley, like, you need to stay out of this kind of thing. But Crowley doesn't feel like Heaven has any kind of power over him anymore, so it's hard to know.
Boy, this could really go either way. On the one hand, yeah, there's the look, and he's the one that recognizes the Metatron. On the other hand, the Metatron might simply have that level of animosity towards all of the angels who caused the fall, who wanted to go their own way. It certainly wasn't only Crowley. I think he might have directed that look at any of them. Plus, Crowley is right now interfering with their plans for the second coming. Him and they interfered with the plans for the first Armageddon.
Okay, I love how you also pointed out that there was that the fact that Crowley did also recognize him. I'm definitely leaning toward there's some kind of history there, and it's not a happy one. He clearly wasn't happy with the damn full questions that Crowley asked a lot.
I mean, I could see it kind of being a both and with what you're saying. Like, Metatron might have personal beef with everyone that he didn't like during the fall. so it could be personal in that way. Yeah. I don't know. I'm going to cheer for there to be a personal beef just because I think that could be interesting.
All right.
So sure, I'll say yes.
Yay! All right, guys. Well, that was our panel. That's all the time we have. And I want to say thank you to all you wonderful panelists, all three of you. And also to you, everyone who joined us today to watch this while we prattled and rattled and hopefully got some interesting thoughts going. And I also want to say a huge thank you to Rachel and Bethany and just the entire Ineffable Con staff for making all this possible. Yay! Because without you, we wouldn't get to do fun stuff like this. And we will see you guys around the con. Bye.